Let me just start off by saying that I can't stand people that go to the drive-through lane and pretend like they're visiting a brand new planet. Please stop asking the employee what a cheeseburger has in it. I can see you from my driver's seat and you've definitely had your fair share amount of cheeseburgers. Please have a game plan. We're hungry. This is the drive-through lane. It's supposed to be faster. In case you guys are wondering, today's video has actually nothing to do with food. I just like starting it off with food, and most of the time it's because I'm really hungry. I feel like I have a clear mind when I'm really hungry instead of when I'm full. I feel like I need a nap, and that's not great for recording. You definitely need a certain amount of energy, or a certain level of energy, I should say. Anyways, let's get straight into today's video. We are continuing this series that we started a while back of looking up some of the best custom Marvel Legends action figures out in the wild, and specifically eBay. That's usually the one that I go to. As I said before, I like checking out some of the creativity out in the community. I do plan on jumping in on social media. I'm not really a big social media guy, but I will, just to check out to see if there are any cool customs on there. But for the most part, or at least for the time being, I stick mostly to eBay because it gives people an opportunity to actually go on there and purchase it. So everything that is showcased in the video was available at one point. I'm not sure if it will be by the time I uploaded, but hopefully it is. That way, if you guys are interested, you can pick it up. Although I will say, in most cases, you have to have a pretty deep wallet, because a lot of these customs, they take quite a bit of work, they take quite a bit of labor, and so for the most part they tend to be relatively expensive to what you would usually buy at like a retail setting. But they're definitely worth it in some cases if you are a big fan of certain characters that haven't been made by OMs, or just getting a really cool looking figure, maybe an alternate version of one that we've already received. But anyways, I've rambled, I've spit enough saliva. Let's get straight into today's video. And as is usually the case, we're not going to be looking at figures first. I usually like to start off by talking about some really cool accessories that are out in the wild. Usually I don't like to make entire videos about just accessories, so I'll usually start off by mentioning a couple that I think are worth bringing up. The first one is this smoke trail that you can use for your Green Goblin Marvel Legends action figure. It looks absolutely phenomenal, especially if you like to display your Green Goblin in flight. According to the listing, you may have to do some minor little adjustments depending on which Green Goblin you're going to be porting this onto, and then which version of the glider he actually has on him. So it just depends, but if you're able to make it work, this displays so well. Whatever Green Goblin you decide to place with this particular accessory, it's definitely going to stand out in the display. Now the price point is a little bit hefty, but you have to keep in mind that whoever is selling these is probably not able to mass produce these, so they have to craft each and every single one of these accessories by hand, and you can really see that the attention to detail is off the charts. But if you have the extra cash laying around, this is definitely a phenomenal accessory. I think it definitely deserves a lot of attention. However, as great as this is, we have to keep in mind we're here to talk about the top Marvel Legends customs. So this is a great accessory, but let's get straight into the actual figures. The first one that I wanted to talk about a little bit here is this custom Juggernaut action figure. And I know what you guys are thinking upon first glance. There's really nothing different from this particular version to the original one from Hasbro, but after reading the description and actually taking a closer look at this version, or this rendition from this customizer, you can tell that there are a couple of noticeable differences. The biggest one obviously is the fact that he sculpted over the pins. I'm not sure if it was just something that he molded and fit into the pins, or if it's just a completely new body piece. But there are no pins on this figure, and so obviously it can photograph much better than the original. And then on top of that, there is a repaint to this particular figure, and it looks closer to some of the comic book appearances, and definitely closer to that Marvel Select version. I think the color is very similar to that old school Marvel Select action figure. The figure is selling for around $90, which really isn't that bad. I believe this figure loose by itself without the customizing is somewhere along the lines of like $50 to $60. So it doesn't come with pins. If that's something that really bothers you, you can pay the extra 20-30 bucks and get one that has no pins, and then something that is closer to some of his appearances in the comic books. Like I said, the customizing here isn't as noticeable as with other figures, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on if you're a stickler for small little details like that. I am definitely going to pour some salt in some wounds with this next figure, because we are looking at a Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider action figure. For those people that are familiar, we almost got a Robbie Reyes with that Engine of Vengeance HasLab project that did not get fully funded. I'm not 100% sure if we have ever received a Robbie Reyes. At least I don't remember anything modern. So it's a really cool, nice touch from this collector to be able to release something like this. I know for some hardcore collectors, this just may be too much to bear, but this looks really well done, at least from the one image that the customizer decided to post. Hopefully they decide to post a few more images, maybe some closer looks at the paint applications and things of that nature. But regardless, it's actually a character that has somewhat of a cult following. People absolutely love this particular version of Ghost Rider, and as I mentioned before, he has had quite a few appearances in the comic book universe, but we have yet to receive a modern day Marvel Legends Robbie Reyes. And it's also worth mentioning, this particular figure is only going to cost you about $70, which really isn't that bad considering most of these type of custom action figures usually run closer to 100. If you're really desperate for a Robbie Reyes in your display, this might be maybe your only one option for the foreseeable future. The next custom Marvel Legends action figure is probably maybe my favorite one. It's a really interesting figure. It is based on the Spider-Man Unlimited animated series that came out in the late 90s. And just like with a lot of these old school Marvel properties or these old school Marvel projects, it has somewhat of a cult following. It doesn't have like the best ratings online, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but for those small hardcore Spider-Man Unlimited fans, this is a phenomenal figure. This is an absolutely breathtaking repaint, and it's worth mentioning that this is a seasoned customizer, at least from what I can tell. Great ratings overall, and this particular customizer does have a few other listings where they really showcase all of their skills and their abilities when it comes to customizing action figures. This is one of those that I definitely feel like if you're interested, keep an eye on it, because it does have quite a few watchers. A few people already have this in their carts, and it wouldn't surprise me if this figure sells within the next few days, just because from what I can remember, we haven't received a modern day Marvel Legends Unlimited Spider-Man, but I do feel like there is at least somewhat of a demand for this particular figure. Now, I do believe that Hasbro will eventually get around to releasing a modern version of this Spider-Man, but if you are truly impatient, you're looking to pay roughly about like $130 to $140 for this beautiful masterpiece. The last figure in today's video perfectly embodies why I started this entire series, and that is this Marvel Legends custom General Ross action figure. This is just a perfect example of what the community is capable of when they really set their sights on giving us a truly unique perspective on one of the most underrated Marvel characters. Not only is this a phenomenal custom with some great paintwork all around, but it is an extremely relevant Marvel character. We just recently received confirmation that Harrison Ford would be playing the role of Thunderbolt Ross in the newest Captain America film, so the timing is just perfect. Obviously, we will get one of these General Ross action figures later down the line, especially once the film releases. Not only the live action version, but eventually we'll get a comic book version as well, just because that's usually what happens. A lot of the live action brings up some of the comic book based versions of each character, and honestly, I could eventually see this being released from Hasbro in like a 2-pack, kind of similar to what we saw with that classic style Bruce Banner and Grey Hulk that got released not too long ago. As I always say, if you're a huge fan of Red Hulk, if you desperately need this in your display and just don't have the patience, this is a great figure to own. You are looking to spend roughly about like $170 to $180 once, you know, taxes and everything and all the fees are calculated. So it's definitely not a cheap figure. There is a pretty hefty price attached to it, but it does look absolutely brilliant, and this customizer definitely deserves the props for that. So there we have it, another one in the books. If you guys like these type of videos, make sure to check out our top Marvel Legends custom playlist. To be honest, it's really not that long. We've only started the series maybe like a few weeks ago, but there are still a couple of more videos if you guys want to check them out. But as always, if you guys enjoy the content, let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will definitely try to respond to more comments. I've definitely been falling behind on that recently, but I'll try to reply to as many of you guys as I possibly can. So thank you guys for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and as always, above everything, make sure you guys enjoy the hobby. Thank you.